So in today's session, we will see design of bridges. In today's webinar, what I'm going to discuss is this is the short agenda. First, we will see introduction to bridges. What is the definition of bridge and why it is used, and then we will move on to types of bridges. The types of bridges according to various kind and specifications. And then I will be discussing about loadings in bridges as per IRC and IRS codes, that is Indian Railway Congress and Indian Railway Standards. Next, I will move on to design as per IS codal provisions, and then how these loads are applied in STAT modeling and how these loadings are considered for our design. I will explain briefly. Further, I will move on to the career path and job opportunities, like how you will be useful when you study about the design of bridges. So first, we will define bridges. So what is a bridge? Bridge is nothing between. It is a connection between two places. Okay. So in early days, there used to be two land masses separated by a water. So if we want to connect to the other side of the land, we need a structure called bridge. So that is how the bridge is defined. They are used to connect between two places which are inaccessible via ground level. And it can be separated by any obstruction like water, river, sea, deep valley, anything. So in modern days, the bridges are constructed over existing roadways. So you can see in all major metro cities, we have roads, and above we have constructing the bridge. The main reason is to allow for free travel of vehicles without any signals and intersection. That is the major requirement of major cities. For example, if you see a picture, I will tell you. Yeah, you are able to see this picture. This is a typical signal junction. You can see, and people here they are not following the traffic signal properly. You can see a car over the left, zigzag it is moving. There in the central round turn, there is a two-wheeler fellow who is coming in the middle. These kind of things will lead to accident, and it leads to a lot of confusion. And you can also see a set of vehicles on the other side waiting for the green signal. So what happens is people used to wait for some time till the green signal arrives. And in major metro cities, people don't have the patience to wait, or traffic is very high. Even if the signal is green, we have to wait for 30 to 40 minutes. So everyone has undergone this issue. The solution is we have to provide bridges at these junctions. For providing free flow of traffic, we need a bridge like this. So can anyone remember what bridge is this? Yes, this is the famous Katipara bridge at Chennai. So earlier, before the construction of bridge at 2002, there used to be a signal, and people has to wait for 30 to 40 minutes to move out of the city. And after this bridge was constructed, you can see there is a free flow of traffic. On all the four sides, people can travel the vehicle, and they can move in and out, and there is no stopping. So that is the need of bridges. Why we are providing bridges? Two reasons: to have access to the other side, and the second thing is to avoid congestion of traffic and free flow of traffic. That is the two reasons bridges are provided. We can also go for another solution, that is tunnels. So tunnels are not covered in this webinar. The tunnels are the same thing like bridges. Only thing is that they have a structure under the ground, and they also provide free flow of traffic. Now we come to types of bridges. The types of bridges according to structural behavior are, it is classified into 6 types. The first one is the beam bridge and the truss bridge, and the third one is the arch bridge, followed by cantilever bridges, suspension, and a cable stayed bridge. Okay, now you see the image of a beam bridge. Okay, the structural behavior of a beam bridge is very simple. So you all people know how a beam will behave. The beam will transfer load through predominantly bending. That is, it is a flexural member. Here the load is transferred through bending. Okay, so there is a single span of slab, and the vehicular traffic on the road slab is transferred through bending. That is the tension at the bottom, and it is transferred to the supports over the piers at the corners, and it is transferred as a compression force to the foundation. That is the load transfer path. As a structural engineer or as a design engineer, we need to ensure that how the load is transferred. That is the main criteria of a design. If there is any fault in that load transfer, failure will occur. So in order to avoid that failures, we need to do the design properly. So here the load is transferred only through bending. So that is why it is classified as a beam bridge. So next is the truss bridge. So everyone know what is a truss. So in our college days in civil engineering third semester or second semester, you might have done this mechanics of solids. In that, everyone knows the method of joints and analysis procedure and all. So the truss bridge is nothing but, so the load transfer is taking place through top chord compression and bottom chord tension. You can see a typical picture of a truss bridge. Okay, the vehicle comes on the slab. The load is transferred through the top chord compression, and it's once again transferred to the bottom chords in tension, and it transferred to the support. This is the load transfer support. If you analyze the truss member, you can see that some of the forces will carry compression and some of the forces will carry tension, and there is also zero force members in between. So that is the truss bridge. So now comes to arch bridge. Arch bridge, you know the behavior of arch. Here the load transfer takes place only through compression. So the vehicles are traveling on the roadway. The load in the roadway is transferred through this vertical member called hangers. What you're seeing, that vertical member, that is called as hangers, and that hangers will transfer the vertical load to this arch, and this arch will transfer that load through compression to the supports, and then the load is transferred to the foundation. That is the behavior. So how this is different from our typical beam bridge is that here there is an economical over the beam bridge. This section itself is economical when considered two beam bridge. For the same span, if you provide a beam bridge and if you provide arch bridge, always the arch bridge will be economical. Now comes to cantilever bridge. Here the load transfer takes place through cantilever action. So cantilever action is nothing but it's one end fixed, the other end free, and always top chords in tension and the bottom chords in compression. That is how the load transfer takes place. The image you are seeing is a bridge which connects Scotland and Denmark. That is 5th of 4th. This is an old bridge actually. 7 years back, they have constructed a new bridge in the same way between these two countries. And I have worked in that project, 5th of 4th. They have changed to cable stayed bridge. So there is a wonderful project which have two big towers in the middle, and everything is connected to cable. Actually, the design life of this bridge is around 100 years. Actually, it was constructed around 1890s, and till now the bridge is in good condition, only old bridge. But the government, they wanted to construct a new bridge, and they want to close the old bridge because the design life period is over. Usually, as a design engineer or a bridge engineer, we will have our life period of the structure, that is 50 years or 100 years. In India, after the life period is over also, we don't destroy the structure, or we don't put new structure till it goes for overall deformation. That structure is there in India. We also have to cultivate the habit of constructing new bridges once the design life is over. Next comes the suspension bridge. So here in the image, you can see that there is a cable, that is a curved cable, and there is a roadway. After the vehicles are going the roadway, the load coming in the roadway is transferred through these curved cables, okay, through tension. And the tension is transferred to the towers, and the towers transfer it as a vertical load to the foundation. It's very simple, like you carry a notepad in your two hands and you walk, same kind of behavior. The only thing is the cable is curved, okay, and we have a tension in the cable. These cables are, the diameter will be very huge, and they have a grouped couples of a lot of linkages will be there, of like 40 mm, 42 mm diameter of cables of 12 numbers, 16 numbers. They get grouped together, and these cables are tied to the towers very strongly. And the next one is the cable stayed bridge. Here you can see that the load transfer takes place through these straight cables. The only difference between the suspension bridge and cable stayed bridge is that they have a curved cables, and here the cables are a straight one. And the tension is transferred through anchorages through the towers, and the tower transfer the load to the foundation. Usually, this is up to the road slab. Below structure is called as a substructure, and above the roadway slab, it is called as a superstructure of the bridge. Now we comes to the types of bridges according to function. So when a bridge is constructed over a river, it is called as an aqueduct. When a bridge is constructed over a valley, it is called as a viaduct. And the bridge mainly constructed for passage of pedestrian. It is called as pedestrian bridge. Usually, we might have encountered a lot of railway stations, and for each railway station, there will be a pedestrian bridge, steel bridge will be there, which will take from inside of the railway station to the outside of the railway station to nearby road. Each one of that, it is a pedestrian steel bridge, and every railway station has one pedestrian bridge. And you can imagine how many bridges are there, how many stations are there in India, railway stations are there in India. That much pedestrian bridges are there, not only in railway stations, at highways, expressways, and very high density populated areas also we have this pedestrian bridge. In Japan, they will consider pedestrian bridges for kilometers. That is a wonderful thing. And the next one is the highway bridge. See, the bridge constructed for road traffic and vehicles, that is called as highway bridge. Whenever you construct a bridge and above that road is there, that is called as a highway bridge. And when you construct the bridge and there is a railway line going there, it is called as a railway bridge. Basically, there are a lot of difference between a railway bridge and a highway bridge. The loadings are different, and the approving authority also different. IRS is called as Indian Railway Standards, and they are governed by Indian Railways. And IRC is called as Indian Road Congress, and it is governed by National Highways Authority of India. And there are also pipeline bridges. So you might have seen water infrastructure. There will be some tank, and we have to connect to the nearby reservoir of several kilometers away. What they will do is that they will bring through pipe, and that pipe they cannot lay it simple on the road. On the road, it will be supported by thrust blocks, and if any obstruction comes like a river, valley, they will put a bridge in that area, and above the bridge they put this pipeline. That is called as a pipeline bridge. So recently we have a big project like from Iran to Delhi. A gas project was planned to bring the natural and oil gas. It was a very big project. Like the pipeline will be running through between the countries and in between the oceans. It was a major project, and it was started, but it is not yet completed. It is on the progress. So those kind of important projects we have in pipeline bridges. Now we have the types of bridges according to length. If the length of the bridge is less than 6 meters, it is called as a culvert. So you might have traveled a long way to your native places, and so many places you might have seen a small 6-meter culvert bridge, and there you have a small painting at the left side saying that a culvert bridge span 3-meter length this much. So a lot of culverts are there, and specification according to IRC is that it should be less than 6 meters. And if the length is between 6 meter to 120 meter, it is called as a minor bridge, and greater than 120 meter, it is called as major bridge. Okay, so this is a textbook classification according to old codes. Now come to the major thing, loadings in bridges, IRC and IRS codes. Yeah, when the bridge carries a road vehicles, it is called as IRC loading, and when the bridge carries a train, then it is called as IRS loading. So we have IRS classification: Class A wheel loading, Class B wheel loading, and Class AA tractor loading. Okay, so basically in olden days, actually this bridge design of bridges, it was a subject recently developed in the 20th century. Okay, so in 1800s, 1900s, they don't have this kind of code books and all. What they do is that they take the huge strength of a live load, that is the weight of the largest available vehicle or weight of the elephant, and then they just multiply it 2 times and they apply the load and they design. And after some 10 to 20 years, there was a failure of one bridge, some bridge named Tacoma. Yeah, Tacoma Bridge. If you search in Google, brief history will be there. What happened that it was designed with a simple major vehicle loading, and no other loads was taken into account. And it was a winter season, and heavy winds were coming in, and the bridge collapsed very badly. Then engineers considered wind load also. So dead load plus wind load. They again designed a bridge, and they constructed. And after some 10 years, what happened? Another bridge collapsed. But it was designed by dead load, wind load, and then a factor was there. How the bridge collapsed, actually, it was like a New Year Eve, and there was one organization, they invited a celebration on the top of the bridge, and all the entire town people came into the bridge, and there are thousands and thousands of people on the bridge. So the bridge was mainly designed for vehicular loading. You know that how they will analyze in the olden days without computer. What is the classical method for analysis of vehicle loads? So you might have studied moment distribution method, slope deflection method. For analysis of this vehicular load, this classical method of structural analysis gives one super method called we have that virtual work method. In that, what they will do, they will analyze it train of loads and they will simply work it out. Those engineers of olden day, they will work out like that. But they didn't take the load of the people or any sudden impact load and this kind of accidental loading. Then they again reverse the loading. They have an impact load. The impact load should be equal to 20% of the live load, and it has to be designed for accidental loading condition. Also, they include another load step. Like that, this design of bridges has been evolved from ages ago, and now we have this IRC codes. So, as per IRC codes, the biggest vehicle or highest vehicle is this tracked vehicle. Tracked vehicle is nothing but the vehicle which you see in military. Okay, that is called as tracked vehicle. And the wheeled vehicle is nothing but the normal wheel. Okay, that is the bus, cars, two-wheeler. Those are called as a wheeled vehicle. Now we will see the loadings. So what you see is class A, class B truck vehicle. Okay. You can see that class A vehicle, it has 68 kilonewton load, and class B maximum, it comes on 1114 and 68. That is the maximum loading. So these are all called as axial loading. Axial loading is nothing but this is like the other side also there is one wheel. And this load 1114 has to be divided by 2, taking it to analyze manually. And when you are putting into software, how it is done, I will show you. There is also another load called Project Cargo load, the biggest of the loads I have designed ever. So there was a port in Malaysia called Whale Ore Malaysia port, and I was a design engineer at that time. So the biggest load was like a 200-meter truck, and it cannot turn left, turn right. It takes load from the container of the ships, and it travels in a straight bridge. Okay, it only travels straight, and it has like multiple axles, like 72 to 100 axles. It was there, and it will travel in a straight bridge of 10 kilometers. Okay, that was the biggest loading, and it was applied in a stat model in a very different way. Continuous series of vehicle loads I have applied. Now we will see how this load can be applied in our stat model. What you are seeing is nothing but the image of a stat pro model. So whenever you need to give a vehicular definition, in the right side you can see that definitions. We have a lot of definitions in stat pro. Vehicle definition, time history definition, wind definition, snow definition, seismic definition. So for this case, we have to click vehicle definition. Once you click the vehicle definition, a small window will pop out. That is this window you are seeing in the image. In that, it will have an option called create new definition. Okay. So I have given the load like IRC class A. So as per IRC codal provisions, the width of the road is 1.8 meter. Okay. And what are the loads we are seeing in axles? That is entered as load 1, load 2, load 3, load 4. You can see that the first loads like 27 kilonewton, second load 27 kilonewton, and the distance is 1.1 meter. What is that 1.1 meter? If you go back to the previous slide, you can see that the distance between the first load is 27, second load is 27. The distance between them is 1.1. So here, if you see that distance is entered here. Okay, 27, 1.1. The distance between the first load and second load is 1.1. And the difference between the 27 and 114 is 3.2. You can see the previous image. So how this is entered is in one column, we have loads. You have to enter all the axial loads in serial number. And the second one is the distance between the axial load. That is 1.1, 3.2, 4.3, 3 and 4. So you can see that the third one is the 4.3 meter. Once again 3 meter, and another thing is also 3 meter. So the same is entered in this vehicle. Once you enter in this vehicle, you will get the wheel loads. Okay. After that, that wheel load has to be applied on this structure, and then if you analyze, it will get analyzed. That is the thing. Now same thing for IRC class B. So IRC class A and class B, you can note it down. Same distance between the axles. Only thing the difference is that the vehicular load is different. Here the maximum load is 68 kilonewton, and there the maximum load is 114 kilonewton. So in that right hand side of the window, you can see that vehicle how it has been defined. Like type 1 load 2727 114 114. That is been defined load of class A. Okay, that is the syntax. So this is how we use it to define stat modeling. Now what you are seeing is the class AA tracked vehicle. Okay, so class AA tracked vehicle is nothing but a military vehicle. So military vehicle is a heavy duty vehicle and it has a huge load of 700 kilonewton. So this is the maximum load IRC is asking us to take into consideration like a live load. So the distance between that axle, you can see that it's 2 meter plus 0.85 plus 0.85, that is the half of the 0.85, you will get that axle to axle distance, that is 2.05. 0.85 divided by 2 plus 1.2 plus 0.85 divided by 2. So this is applied as a same way in stat model. So we have to go to vehicle definition and you have to click create new definition. You have to note down the width of the vehicle, that is 2.05. How the 2.05 is arrived, you can see here. In the second image, you can see that width dimension, that is 1.2 meter between that end to end of the vehicle, and in the axle 0.85 divided by 2, 0.85 divided by 2. Okay, that is what I have entered as 2.05. Once this is applied, the vehicle load will be on the structure and the live load is applied, and you can run the stat model. Okay, now comes to IRS loading. This is a very old code. Like any Indian code, you can just Google it and you can get it. Like IS 456, IS 800, and any code. But IRS loadings are always very tough and difficult to get it. You can get directly only from Indian railways, and they like you to update the codes very frequently. So if you can see that in this image, it is a broad gauge loading of 1975 designed vehicle. Okay, this is a simple broad gauge train which we were used to go. Till now that major railway station, it is been under consideration. So how to consider the load, you can see that image. The axial load in tons has been given. So each locomotive, that big axles, big wheel and small wheel is there, and the axle spacing is given in millimeter. Okay, you can see that the maximum axle load in tons is around 19.25 tons, and the spacing we have 1600, 1800, and according to the image we can define it. A train load of maximum 7.67 tons per meter with a maximum axle load of 22.9 tons shall be considered. Okay, so these are all different types of locomotive for broad gauge loading. And how it is applied in stat, the similar way. You have to go for vehicle definition and add axle load in one column and the axle spacing in the second column. Now this, what you are seeing is the class A railway loading. Okay, it's like a diesel or electric train. Okay, so what the maximum loading is given in tons and also given in newtons. So it is around 74.5. Okay, that is the maximum load in newtons, and we have a spacing of 1676 to 743 1676. So you can see here wherever that circle is mentioned, that is the wheel of the train, and that has to be taken as a loading. Usually when I worked in this Chennai Metro Rail project, I have taken an axle load of 14 kilonewton. So that was the load given by this Metro Rail authorities. So for every train, they have separate manufacturer and they will give what is the loading coming on. And similarly, you have any vehicle, like if you design a port, you have a bridge specifically for the port and it's not open to the public traffic. And there is one special vehicle designed for carrying this all big 9.61 metric ton containers. The loading will not be like IRC or IRS. The loading will be given by the manufacturer of the vehicle. That vehicle will be used only there. You can see the largest, biggest vehicle used in the world till now is, I think, in Singapore and in Denmark, the biggest of the huge vehicle. And they will give the loadings like this, the data sheet of the vehicle. If you see in the beginning, it will look like a very tough image. But if you look into deep, it's nothing but wheels and loadings and spacings. So once what I did is that I did all these loadings and I have given for submitting for approval. We have designed using a StatPro, and the vehicle loads are applied like this. And the approving authority is an 75 years old person. He's a like a chief engineer of a government authority. What he did is that he analyzed using influence line diagram, and he got a different answer. And what we analyzed instead, it's a different answer. And he was again asked us to revise the things to match the influence line diagram. So this was the thing the people would use to, even if you design it using the StatPro or LUSAS or MIDAS, any software, before submission or before approval, it is advised to do a manual check using influence line diagram. So influence line diagram is already we have studied in sixth semester, I think so. Yeah, sixth semester. It's an easy technique to analyze vehicular loading, wheel loading, and we will get bending moments and shear force based on that. So in olden days, what they will do is that they will consider only one load and they will finish the design. But in modern days, we have all advanced techniques like StatPro, LUSAS. We used to put lot of loadings and lot of load combinations according to the Euro code, all those things, and we have to do a very detailed design. So that is what I expected. So for the same soil conditions also, we cannot do the construction at any part of the world, because what they did is like wonderful thing about Indian code is that they have given like a load combination like dead load plus live load multiplied by 1.5. That's all. But if you see in other part of the world, it's not like that. If you see Eurocode, there is no factor. The Eurocode says that you can take from 0.9 to depending upon the engineer's experience. So they have given that much freedom to the engineers. They can take it from 0.9 to 2, provided that structure should not fail. The structural stability and responsibility should lie within the engineer. Eurocode is anyone can read the Eurocode. How they have given the Eurocode is like Eurocode is like same code, but you cannot apply the same code with all the countries. It will be like Eurocode with French annex, Eurocode with Spanish annex, Eurocode with Denmark annex. So how it will be like if same thing applied to Indian code, it will be like Indian code with Tamil Nadu annex, Indian code with Andhra annex, Indian code with Himachal Pradesh annex, Indian code with Maharashtra annex. Like that it will be. So that much complicated thing this Eurocode was. Our people who has developed this codes like 150 years ago, like started in 1900, they referred all this Eurocode around the world. And initially there was an idea to put the code like Indian code with Tamil Nadu annex, Indian code with Delhi annex, like that. But finally they didn't do it because to avoid confusion. And even this load factor also, they made a uniform factor throughout India. When it comes to the design of Indian codes, it's very easy because the factor is same in India, like same in Chennai, same in Delhi. You can implement the same thing, that factors. But when it comes to Europe, the all factors are different. Even if you travel from like Denmark to France, it is totally different. Depending on the individual local climatic conditions, they have changed the code. That is one thing. And the second thing is the like soil conditions. This soil conditions is totally dynamic, and this soil structure interaction is still under researchable thing. And 50% we have literature and code books, and 50% it's our assumption based on the experienced engineer. That is how we move in bridges.